to learn about debate today with Kak Peli. And without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, with the topic winning debate strategies, please welcome Feliani Ruth.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Balkis, and good morning, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, you are audible.
You're clear.
All right, so I think I would like to share my presentation. Wait a minute. So let's see the presentation. Oh, Lord. Share on the Google Chrome. All right, so first of all, I'd like to thank the entire committee for inviting me to be here. This is such a really great opportunity. Actually, this weekend I was supposed to judge some other competitions, but then because on tomorrow I'll leave to Purwokerto for the KDMI, so I decided that I have to take some rest for this weekend, but then I decided that I have to join this event because Polsri is one of the university that has successfully done really great job in the prestigious competitions of NUDC and KDMI. Anyway, do you prefer me to speak in English or Indonesia? I think English, yeah, because we have some other non-Indonesian speakers in this forum. So yeah, back to the reason why I'm here. And I think like I resonate definitely with what Pulsary has been doing a lot. You know, you come from a place that has no possibly started with no debate society. You don't have the debate club, but then you have the knack, you have the real drive to do something in debate, because debate is not just winning a competition. It's a total skill that will bring you a lot in your life. So I think the title now for today, this is something that I have also pondered for so long, is about learning how to learn. Because throughout my years in debating as a debater as well as a judge, I think what matters is no longer about, again, winning the debate or getting some fame. It's mostly about knowing how to learn. And then that learning could be cultivated in many ways and in many fields that you will work on in the future. I think a lot of you are quite some of engineers, I guess. Maybe a lot of you here are engineers, or a lot of you are still studying, and then you definitely aim for something higher, right? Actually, I'm currently working as a project manager for Wikimedia in East Asia, Southeast Asia, Australia, Pacific coverage. So it's been really, really great to be where I am. I think 2025 is also one of the best years in my life, because we'll see. First thing first is that I'll share with you a bit background of myself. I did debate in 2016. At the time, I couldn't speak English at all. I mean, like, we probably was able to learn English when we were in high school, right? Like in schools, we were taught English, we used English, but for, only speaking, but without a proper grammar, without a functioning English that can be used to communicate with people. So at the time, I was the reason that I want to join English club at the time was because in 2016 I thought that, oh, I think the future is English. I have to have an English skills. And to let you know that my family don't have the means to support me to learn English, to go to extra classes. So I said that I should be able to use English. And then I joined the English club. At the time, in 2016, there was like a year of preparation to go to national. So because I was chosen in the provincial level as the one of the speakers to go to national, and it was around a year, definitely what I had in mind is definitely seeking shortcut to succeed. I was not able to speak English really well. That one. Number two is that I was also coming from a small city in Pontianak. So there was not many chance to join competition at the time, right? Because it was still pre-COVID. So we were all needed to have a offline competition. So you know what kind of competition did I join? I joined a competition to go in Kuching, Malaysia, because you can cross the border to go there, and like it's way cheaper at the time. So that's one of the way. So I think one of the best thing about post-COVID era for debating communities that you have lots and lots and lots of competition that you can join anywhere you are. So it can be really helpful as long as you have internet connection and also the means and also like the passion to that. So it all started at the time knowing that I need to take shortcut. I have had a lot of time that I want to take shortcut. I have written in my Google search that cara cepat bahasa Inggris. That's one. And then like I join people's conversation. I did not join. I mean, like, I observe a lot of drama and a lot of arguments on X at the time, Twitter, on Ask FM, I still remember, because I don't know how to debate properly. It's always seeking shortcut to succeed. Why then it matters for me to talk and discuss all these things? Because as a debater, we know that framework is important. Framework is also something that is missing in a lot of speeches of people, in a lot of people's speeches. So sometimes when I judge the debate, it's just like a stock argument that you have. For example, when you talk about politics, you just talk that, oh, democracy is important. Democracy would result into a good thing without necessarily explaining the framework of what is democracy, why the democracy should exist in the very beginning. Who are the beneficiary of democracy? Who are going to get the harms from democracy not working? Those kind of stuff are very, very important. So when I said that we shouldn't seek shortcut to succeed, it's very necessary for you, because if your mindset is correct, the moment that you join debate, you would be able to sustain, and then you're not just winning. Because I think, like, to be honest with you, there are a lot of winning debaters, champion debaters, but do they have the capacity to process the emotion very well about losing and winning? That's another argument. That's another issue that a lot of debaters might face. So I think that if you have the correct mindset, you'll be able to be objective in documenting your process. So back again to what I said previously is that framework is really important. And then purpose could guide you a lot in the process. So the question is like, how do I find my purpose, Kak? The answer is you don't know. That's why rather than having the purpose in the beginning to have it until the end, just be objective in documenting your process. Truthfully, my objective was my purpose at the time was very shallow. In the first year of debating, I decided that I want to be an NSDC speaker. And then when I was in NSDC and I failed to proceed to quarter, semi, and final, what I said when I saw the great debater at the time, I remember that it was Kak Kararianto Putra who was the judge. So I said that, oh, in the future I want to be an NSDC judge as well. I will be judging another speakers at the time. So that was like documenting the process that I put in my mind. And then when you have new purpose coming up with your life, with the debating journey that you have, you can also document that. And also I did when I was in senior high school, I think the late year of high school, the last year of high school, I said that I want to join WUDC. I want to be in one of the top university in Indonesia to be a debater there. However, I did not. I failed. So I joined English debate in Untan, which at the time, we did not have the club. We don't have the UKM yet at the time. So we were just like casually asking the seniors that we know, some of the seniors that are English teacher in Pontianak, to coach us. And then it was really, really hard because we don't know the trends that is happening in Indonesia debating. Unfortunately, debate is also learning the pattern and trend. That's why I said that it's very, very important to document your process and then own the learning. This is also something that I have learned from coaching and also the moment that I judge. I can see some of the debaters that grow, really growing, versus those who are just good, but they don't grow. The difference is on the way that they own their learning. So what does it mean to own your learning? These are some of the examples that I put here. When you own your learning, you know that everything that I have received is the way that I process. The difference between high school speakers and university speaker is high school speaker might need a little bit more feeding from the coach. Like the coach literally have to tell you every single thing that you need to say and the way to say it. The difference between university speaker is that you are more rewarded, especially in your speaking, in your speech, if you are able to show a different unique identity that you have. Maybe the tone of your voice that could be super quick or like super slow, but then is engaging, or the preference of words or the preferences of some styles that you have. That's the difference and the uniqueness of learning in itself. That's why I think when you are owning your learning, you would do several things. One is that you would periodically analyze your SWOT, which is the strength, your weaknesses, your opportunity, the threat. Even your teammate can be your threat, So sometimes you can also document that in the process. So I have a lot of like, if you ask me, I have a diary of back 2016. I still have like diary of many years ago. It's documenting my, it cannot show. Like I have this, I would show you that I think more than, it's just not everything that I have. It's two and other books as well. Yes, I literally have like every book from every year. But I think like my debate binder that has from the beginning of 2016, the first time I debate, I think some of them I already throw it away because it's piling up in my room. But then I still literally have it all. Sometimes when you are a debater who is in the recent years, because you're using laptop, right? And then you're using a lot of mobile devices, sometimes you don't document it properly anymore. So I think that if you would like to start today, what you need to do, really do, is to make your mobile devices categorically, like for example, this is a debate on specific competition, or this is a debate on the category of specific motion or specific topics. That will be really helpful. Why? Because you would be able to understand where you have left off and what you want to pick up from. I usually have a ways of doing speech or like my case like this. For example, you have like some kind of, let me find space. Okay. These are not my debating diary, so I think this is somewhere. Why? Because you would be able sorry, someone needs to unmute. For example, For example, you have like a paper here or like somewhere in your notes. I think, yeah, somewhere in your notes. What you need to do is first, you need to write down your case as usual. But then you also have to come to the debate or like the preparation or like the coaching session with a learning in mind. So you have to have a specific things that you want to improve today. This is something that works a lot. I also tell this a lot to my kids that I coach. For example, today I want to be able to POI less than 15 seconds, and the POI is gonna get a praise from my coach. That's the goal since the beginning. So without the coach telling you what to do today, you have to come with a specific learning questions. And this is also a specific learning questions that you have to have wherever you go. Even coming to this event, you have to at least have something that you really want to get. Why? Because our attention span is really low, especially with all the short form videos that we have. Even myself, knowing that my attention span gets lesser and lesser, I really need to come with one or two purposes, 2 points that I really want to prove. So with that, it could help you and guide you a lot. Similarly, if you're a teacher later or a tutor or like coach, you would do that as well. You would come to the debate. Okay, today I just want to make sure that everyone speaks 7 minutes. You will just have that. Or like, okay, today they're already good at 7 minutes, so I want to make sure that their session, their signposting is good. And then you will grow and grow. This is called a scaffolding. So when you have a building, you need to scaffold it first in order to get a good structure. And then that foundation can be easily built upon with like any types of material, similarly to debate. And then you need to know what you don't know. So you might question, how do I know what I don't know? That's the way. You cannot take shortcut. You have to document the process. For example, when people are talking about gamification, what is gamification? I don't understand that. You have to find it. What is gamification? When people talk about despotism, you cannot just say that, oh, despotism, ya udahlah gitu. No, you cannot have the mindset of like, okay, let it go. The good debater will always have a question of like, oh, despotism, what is that? I will just Google it, despotism, and then not only Googling it and then like forget it. You will write down everything that you want to know about it. I also would like to let you know that a lot of you might question, Kafeli, maybe some of you might question, you have a great NUDC speech in 2020, you won the debate. Just to let you know, in 2020, it was a COVID time, and I did not plan to join NUDC at the time, actually, because I was supposed to go to Switzerland at the time for a training on human rights issue with the UN at the time. So I decided that, oh, probably this is not the year that I joined NUDC. But in the beginning of January, seeing the recent news in China, I was like, I think COVID will come to Indonesia pretty soon, but hopefully not at the time that I go to Switzerland. But it comes anyway, and it comes in a very, very hazardous and harmful impact that we experience at the time. So my coping mechanism at the time was reading. My coping mechanism was learning, learning a lot. And at the time I was like, I was interested in how economy works. I was interested in how China do things. I was interested in a lot of things. So I document that process. And in documenting that, it was really helpful. And that was a winning speech that was actually prepared months before. So I was like very, very excited, definitely, when the motion was like that, because I did not know that it could be the motion, but I was really, really prepared. So that's why when you want to be a good debater, you have to work on your skills till you really, really ace it. Confidence is number one. There is no point in, during my debating years that I was not confident with facing anyone. So whether it's a big university or a very, very great speakers that I admire, if I have to face them, I face them. I will just face them regardless with the confidence that I have now, the same way that I talk to you. But I will cry definitely after that, crying because my speech was not really great, for example. But then it's a confidence that matter. And then the way that you control yourself. A lot of the speakers that you think is really good in the final, they probably proceed to final because they are very good at self-controlling. They know that sometimes you have to take a bit of time. You have to like focus on specific things, hyper focus on something, and left the other things behind. It's a process that you can learn in your cases, in your coaching session. And then a matter is like the whole bank material that would help you a lot. For example, if you're not really good with IR motions, at the time I was not really good with IR and the US issue because it was the US electoral election. I don't understand what is electoral election. What I did was like I printed out a lot of maps, of different countries, because sometimes when you talk about IR motion, what you did is like you don't really specifically know each country's foreign policy, right? So you were just like, ASEAN is this, Filipina is doing something. So you're just like looking at the map and who is most likely the actors around the context and the issue. That's one of the way. And then definitely communication skills. It includes the language skills. If you are Indonesian, Bahasa Indonesia speaker, you need to be very good at Bahasa Indonesia. You have to use the correct word in order to maximize your speech, because your words is the weapon. So if you ask like an army, they probably have a weapon of like guns or some other military things. But then a debater's skills is of politics, that could be. But if you talk about pop culture, you don't talk about democracy, you talk about behavioral economy, for example. So having the correct word in conveying something would mean a lot in your communication skills. Next, I think those are the principles that I've shared with you, the same way that debating usually start with a principle. Now we go a bit on practical. So how do you aura max your case? In essence, you only have 15 minutes, or if you're high school debaters, you have 30 minutes. But then you have to strategically target your 7-minute speech, and also ensuring that the entire team's case are in line. And then one of the way that you can do is these 4 things. You have to start with the keywords of the motion. And from that keywords of the motion, you identify the problems. You ask question, you assume many things that you have in your mind, and you also put all the possible answers during the case building. And then you can decide with your teammate in like the last 5 minutes that, okay, I'll bring this argument, you have to bring this argument, and so on. So if you already choose the ideas, you need to do RL. This is the most fundamental, the basic one, and then you can definitely adjust this if you're already a intermediate or like even advanced speaker. You can do with assertion. Assertion is essentially something that you want to say, similarly the way that I said it earlier. So to be a good debater, you need 2 things. You need to have a framework, and then you need to have the skills, the hard skills or the soft skills. So you have just to explain that assertion is basically 2 things, 1 and 2. And then with each assertion, you have to prove the reasoning. Who are you targeting? What is framework? What does it mean to have framework? How the framework works? Why it matters? Those are reasonings. Examples are also very great. Maybe in a lot of cases of economy, politics, I think in almost every motion, examples are totally understandable and makes people could get the reality and the weight of your argument better. So for example, if you talk about democracy, you cannot just say that developing countries cannot compete with developed countries. You would say that a lot of the time developing countries are developing because, not necessarily because their democracy is not functioning, but because within their democracy there are a lot of issues. There are populations issues, there are these, and then you would say the example is China, or the example of Indonesia or Brazil. They are doing this and that. And then at the end, you have the link back. So in essence, you have to illustrate your ideas by showing some important theories of why things happen the way that it happens, but also real case examples to show the scale of it happening. Sometimes the example is very important again, because the reality and the weight of it. I think we can talk about this a bit more later. I will give you an example. Here, as an environmental activist, this house would prioritize lobbying the government to implement eco-friendly policies rather than campaigning for individual lifestyle changes. So I will invite everyone to comment on what are the keywords that you need to highlight for this motion. All right, someone answers environmental activist, correct. Prioritize is definitely, but that's not the keywords, it's just one of the way. Eco-friendly, okay, eco-friendly policies, yeah, not just eco-friendly. Environmental. The keywords in the motion, specific, campaigning, okay, that could be. Jadi ada eco-friendly policies and then ada campaigning for individual lifestyle changes. Environmental cleanliness, I don't see there is an environmental cleanliness there. No, so okay, let's see the answer. So these are the case as well as the keywords. So the keywords is an environmental activist. That's number one, because you will debate as an actor. You are an environmental activist. And then the motion is basically this housewood, yeah. So when it is this housewood, you need to make a proposal of why and how things happen, the way that it should happen. That's correct that you have to prioritize. But prioritize-nya apa, what kind of things that you prioritize? You have to prioritize lobbying the government. Lobbying the government to do what? To do eco-friendly policies rather than campaigning for individual lifestyle changes. If you are opposition, then you should lobby the government to campaign for individual lifestyle changes rather than eco-friendly policies. Why then both teams have to have all these 4 keywords? Because this debate requires a comparison. You have an eco-friendly policies, but then you know that there is campaigning for individual lifestyle changes at the other end. So you have to have a policies that target structural problem versus targeting individual behavior that would possibly amount to many changes that happens in policies. So when you have this kind of debate and you already have the keywords, you are already one step ahead. What you can do during the case building is you build yourself with question. You can ask yourself, what has been done so far by environmental activists? What actually we want to achieve as an environmental activist? Why is it likely that we achieve it? And then what are the impact of changes that has been made? And how effective one policy in comparison to another policy? Those are the questions that you have in your case in the beginning when you are still trying to move around with the motion. And then you can clarify. You can start with the definition with environmental activists. Who are environmental activists? And then the reason why they want to be an environmental activist, maybe because of empathy, past experiences, or the direct impact of immigration, the direct impact of climate crisis they experience. The example, you can also start using example, Greta Thunberg, WWF, and even me, I'm an environmental activist. You can say that. And the clarification, you can say that the debate is not about eco-friendly policies always good or campaigning for individual lifestyle changes is the only solution. No. Doing both lobbying at highest level stakeholders and campaigning will definitely advance the cause further and quicker. But in this debate, you're environmental activists. You have a limited capacity and possibility and boundaries that you can do, the resources that you have. So there should be a trade-off. So this is a debate of trade-off that you need to do eco-friendly policies better or a campaigning for individual lifestyle changes better. Because if you do both, you might not get anything. So remember, in debate, there is no absolute truth and solution. So you cannot just generalize the argument that eco-friendly policies is always the best way. Not necessarily. There are a lot of issues with eco-friendly policies as well, because it is unjustifiable, for example. It is not just to minority people. You cannot just tell people to have a renewable energy if they don't have any electricity in their areas. You're just basically saying that, okay, I want to have a good life on the basis that you don't have a good life. That's a bad argument, right? So that could be detrimental. Next, these are some of the examples of arguments that you could do. First argument, if you're government, or if you're opposition here, environmental activists experience direct harms. Second, individual action will proper policy to follow. We'll discuss about it more in the questions if you have. But this argument, I will share it with you later, yeah? So I will share this presentation to the committee, and the committee will share it with you, so you can look back at it again. Next is that, in essence, what you need to do is you have to defend and you have to attack. It's just playing a game, you know. If you're all playing game, you basically do the same thing with debate. You have to know the opponent and you have to strategically defend yourself. You can first, definitely, and most importantly, but also something that is overlooked by many speakers, is to listen well. You will be able to understand and know what the best way to attack them is if you listen well, and also attack their idea with POI, and also try to respond them by integrating it in your speech. So you can compare A to B, who will it do to certain people, how is it in specific time frame, the theory exists, what is the impact? You would be able to explain that. But if you feel like, oh my God, this is not my motion, I don't understand this at all, there are a lot of alternatives. One, you should start with urgencies of the issue. For example, if the debate was like that motion earlier, and then the government said that eco-friendly policies is very important because you target the government to do something. If government do something and the people will obey, you would say that yes, if the government choose the correct urgency. If the government said that, okay, everyone, let's focus on issues of single-use plastic. We have to pay single-use plastic in a lot of stores. That's a great ways. But then what happened? You basically will tell people to buy tote bag, you know, in the supermarket. It's a good policy that you ban plastic. But then people still need to bring their stuff from the supermarket when they went to one, right? So what happened? The supermarket is selling tote bag. Isn't it amount to new problem, which is a waste of a lot of tote bag, you would say? So you say that a lot of the time government don't have the urgency to really, they probably create a policy, but if it does not come with the behavioral change within people, there will be no proper, there will no ways that proper the changes within that. That's one of it. And then you can define concept, example, real practices. You can also compare changes from time to time. You can also compare the way people react of two different things. These are the way that you can defend and you can attack. Next, okay, these are three mindsets I observe of champion debaters. One is that they have a mindset that they are really afraid to fail. I was a debater that once afraid to fail. It is a cognitive dissonance, I think, for a lot of you here, because some of you are like smiling. Okay, I'm afraid to fail because you feel like this is one chance. If you join a competition, you feel like this is the only time that I can be successful, that I can win this. So having a mindset that is afraid to fail means that you will do everything that you can do to achieve success. If you have to read thousands of books, you read thousands of books. If you have to watch thousands of videos, you watch thousands of videos. And then you do lots of spar and spar and spar. And then when you're curious about a lot of issues, when you see emotion, you're just not taking it as ya udahlah, but then you try to analyze it. Your curiosity will take you to bravely challenge ideas, not only from other ideas, but also your own idea. That's why I said that it's important to document your process and document your learning, so you will know that what you have known and what you should probably unlearn in the future. And definitely various reasons for building the skills, the research and experience, public speaking, teamwork, and it helps you a lot during years ahead. Okay, these are the resources. I will share the resources later. That's the end of my very simple presentation. Hopefully it could be really helpful, and then some of you could get some important learning that you come up with since the beginning of the event. But then if you have questions, you can ask now. Thank you.
Hey everyone, that was such a really wonderful presentation. And I think I'm sure that we already have our excited participants with their questions and curiosity. So if you guys have any answer, please just raise your hand, open your camera, and do not forget to mention your name, your institution, and also your province if it's possible, because we would like to identify some of you. You could also deliver your question by the chat box, but we will prioritize the ones who directly open their camera and use the mic. Also, this Q&A session will not take more than 30 minutes. So if it's already 10 a.m., we will get to the next speaker.
Okay, hello, my name is Zainal Fayed. I'm from SMA Negeri Satu Baru, and I want to ask a question. Does documenting your process mean that we need to recording everything that we learn? Is that really what it means? Like, for example, time-lapsing your learning process, or maybe time-lapsing your, for my personally, time-lapsing your coding process. Is that what it means? Thank you.
Should I answer right away? I think answering right away would be nice. I don't know who is asking the question. I'm not really sure. So because the people in the screen is different than the voice that I've heard. So I think this is funny in a way because like document in your mind and in my mind sounds different, right? It seems like documenting also always means like a recording or like something digital for you. I think document can be really different to everyone, yeah, because it's a preference as well. What I meant is that, you know, you definitely know that there is like this journaling, you know, a lot of people do journaling, right? But for me personally, documenting in my way is a written form. So I have like this bunch of how do you call it, like a case. So I have like a binder that has everything about emotion. So for example, I study or I get a coaching session today about some motion, and then I will write the motion, I will just case building and everything. And then the way that I document it is like having a different types of coloring, you know, pen color. So with all those block note color, I will be able to know, oh, this is my writing and everything. And then I will have a separate notebook. That notebook will have a diary of my experience, my feeling. For example, I joined the competition, I feel like, oh, today I don't feel good about this motion and that motion. So that's one of the way. If you ask me, then other than that, you also have to have a matter. A matter, for example, you categorize a lot of theories, a lot of cases that you think will work during a debate competition. So you can print it that out and use that as a material to assist you in some of the motion that you don't know. Please, 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 please do not just rely on your mind or like your brain. And then you were like, you did not come with anything. You just go to the debate and was like, okay, this is the motion. Let's just go. Raw dogging it. No, you will fail. Really. Because you know you cannot just rely on your brain. Your brain is a very good give you a very good illusions of success. So I think documenting can be really different. If you are a type of someone who watch debate videos, you still have to have a documentations in a written form. If you do it digitally, you need to find a way to digitally process it that can be easily retrieved. So next time that you need it, you know that where it is and you can use it. Because you know, in a debate, you actually can open your notes. You can actually open some of the material that you have prepared prior to that. That's why you would say that, oh, nanti it's kind of cheating. No, if you find it on AI or Google search during a motion case building, that's a cheating. But if you already have a prepared case and then you want to open that prepared case, that's a totally okay. That's totally okay. I hope that answers.
For the asker, could you please state your name and institution again?
My name is Darren Alfayet from SMA Negeri 1 Baru. And yes, it is answering my question. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hopefully that you can start documenting your process. Yep.
Okay, for the next question, I think we have Salva from Seman, Sumatera Selatan.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. So my name is Salva and I'm from Seman Sumsel, and my province is Sumsel, of course, right? So I would like to ask about when you talk about the self-control, so it really relates, especially recently, it's quite hard for me to like self-control, especially when you are second or third speaker, right? Like you're listening and writing in the same time, which is quite overwhelmed oftenly for me. I would like to ask, how do you personally face that condition?
Hi, Salva. Number one, I think you have a really good self-control now because you speak very confidently, which is something that is a lot of debater are very proud of. I think they're really proud of it because we can use this everywhere we go in our workplace and in our studies. So I think I don't see that there is any problem with use alpha, but I do agree that a lot of the times we're also getting overwhelmed, especially when you're a second or third speaker. My experiences with being a second or third speaker is not that much actually, so I couldn't speak in the real example cases, but what I know for sure is that when you are second or third speaker, that's actually a better way. You should see it in a very different angle. What you need probably in practice is not to just like tell yourself, oh, calm down, calm down. You cannot. You probably just, trying to hack your mind will just take time. What you need to do is try to have a better note taking. What I mean with that is that, for example, if you have a case, you have a different, you should not be super, you should waste a lot of paper actually. So what I mean is that when you have a case building, you have your one note, one paper, and then a second speaker speech, one paper. So above it or like below it, you will write down all your rebuttals there. So you will be able to track it easily. So getting overwhelmed is an issue, but to not get overwhelmed, the only answer is to track and then to write your notes really well, which I think also someone did ask in the chat box about how do I write it properly to make sure that I'm proud or like sufficient or not. It's also a practice, so you couldn't just like expect that one time. In the beginning your speech is probably 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but then you have to force yourself to think what is something that is worthy of 7 minute speech. It's a process, so tracking it down I think will be really helpful. One paper for just a case building speech, and then one paper is just to document the cases of the first speaker, their first speaker, my first speaker, their second speaker, and also below it you have to write maybe in another color your rebuttals right away. So you would use that rebuttal as the first paper that you bring to the debate, and then you would go. That's how I do it when I was a second speaker, Salva.
All right, thanks, Kak.
Okay, thank you, Salva. I think we have another question from Hitoyuki Hikaru from SMA Trinitas, please.
So you said that okay, first let me introduce myself. I am Hitoyuki Hikaru. I'm from SMA Trinitas. I'm going to ask about when you said about details, you have to focus on some things that are important and leave the others behind. But we know for ourselves that we might make mistakes on analyzing some things. And how do we prevent that? I just wanted to ask that.
Okay. Thank you, Hitoyuki. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but hopefully it's correct. Going to details. The details is the evils, What I mean when I said that you have to focus on the details and left some of it or prioritize is Again, now before you go forward, try to write down in your note. Are you a beginner debater, intermediate debater, or advanced debater? Because it would totally be different. I think later when you have a session with Kak Hans, you will see a different perspective if you are a judge. It is totally different. So when you are a beginner debater, you might not go to the detail of the cases that is super great. Your details is on the way that you deliver 7-minute speech, the details of using a good RL, for example, and the detail of mentioning each part of this motion. For example, you did talk about environmental activists, you did talk about what is lobbying, you did talk about eco-friendly, you did talk about individual lifestyle changes. But then if you are intermediate, you couldn't just see, okay, I just want to talk about prioritize lobbying the government. No. If you're intermediate skills debater, you will have to talk the example of eco-friendly policies, where eco-friendly policies have worked and have created have lessening the impact to the environment, those kinds of stuff. So again, I think it will be totally different to individual. That's why debater needs a coach, right? Because the coach is the one that would be able to objectively tell you what you are lacking and in which part that you have to improve. So my first and foremost suggestion is that try to write down with your notes very honestly. Are you a beginner speaker, intermediate speaker, or advanced speaker? It's okay if you're still a beginner speaker. And if you do note that you are beginner and you truly feel like, okay, this is the time for me to make myself an intermediate speaker. Again, no shortcut. Just go from beginner to intermediate and to the advanced, because it could be totally different. I hope that answer your question, Hito. If not, then we can still definitely have some more question.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you, Hito.
Okay, thank you, Hito. I think we have another question too from Fahri Smansumsel, please.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much for this great opportunity. So I heard that you are the second speaker, right? And it's same with me. I'm also the second speaker, and I still have some problem within my individual's performance because I have a goal actually to achieve like best speaker in NSDC, and I want to ask you like how you improve your style, and especially what I saw, what I observed with myself, like after like in my note, because my note is very messy. Like, do you have any suggestions of like advice for me to just like how to improve my individual's performance, especially now, like specifically I'm trying to improve my style because styles are very important, right, to achieve the best speaker itself. So
Yes.
yeah, especially for second speaker.
Fari, very good analysis on yourself. I believe Fari is documenting his process. That's why he was able to say that. That's one of the example of real documenting your process. So if you're a second speaker and then you struggle with issue of style and issue of note taking, one is that to be able to adopt styles, because we are human, we can see other people. So what I suggest back then is I watch a lot of videos actually, and in watching the videos, I'm actually writing down their case. And also, for example, if some of the speakers, when I was in high school, I was watching the university student. So I was like, oh, this person sounds amazing. So I will try to use their body language, the way, the tone of their voice, the words that they choose. I will try to replicate it in my speech. That's one. So you can use Fari. You can find some of the great speeches in Indonesia or another countries. Then you can try to copy. If you found, like, for example, I really like this kakak, you can just go on copying them if you can. But that's one of the way. But then tweak it to your style. Because I think Fari, you have like a good starting point, like the way that you speak and everything. You can use it. Maybe you just need to work on like the English language. I think everyone also still experience that. I'm also needing to be better in my English skills. That's one. On second of all, on the messy note taking, I think this is the problem that everyone experience. There are many ways of note taking. One is that you literally write every single thing that you want to say. Like, how do you call it? Verbatim, yeah? So every single word you said, you write it. Or you can say just points in your notes. And then number three, you can write it points, and then you give notes. At the time, back in my time, I will like just write everything. And then before I speak, I will just, this is number one, this is number two, this is number three. And still it's messy. But what I meant is that you can try a different form of note taking to finally find one thing that suits you. So during a practice, you have to experiment with different styles. But before, at least 1 week before the competition, you already have to decide that this is my style. So you couldn't do any experimentation during competition, because if you do that, you usually lose. That's happened to me. So I really suggest that you do experimentation during your practice. During your practice, you ask for feedback. Kak, my coach, today I did this thing with my messy note taking. What do you think? Oh yeah, I don't like this because your speech is also messy because of the note taking. I think I like the yesterday's note taking better. This yesterday's speech better. Oh, it means that maybe yesterday's note taking is a better experiment. So that's the way you do it. I think experimenting and then get the feedback from that experiment. You couldn't actually. It's really hard to just experiment without feedback. So try to experiment, especially during the time that you get feedback from someone else.
Thank you very much, Kak, that very answering my questions.
All right, thank you, Fari. Good luck.
Okay, thank you, Fahri. We shall get into the next question from Ong Yusin, please.
Check. Am I audible?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Kak, for the question. Well, in this opportunity, I would like to ask a question related to my role, which is first speaker. Well, I would like to put myself in two positions, which is prime minister and also leader of opposition. Well, whenever I got a coaching with my coach, he always told me that you have to maximize 3 minutes for setup, and yes, especially for PM, right? So after 3 minutes, yeah, he told me that you have to maximize and efficient your time. Don't spend too many times for the setup, so that you could be in the arguments directly and deeply. But if I put myself as LO, I also have to bring setup and also rebuttals. Even with this motion, I might bring counter mechanism as well. So what do you think? Is that totally fine if I probably use 4 minutes, for example, like higher than 3 minutes? Yeah, as long as I could deliver my arguments well and something like that. I really need your suggestion. Yeah, especially related to the time management itself. Thank you so much.
Okay, you seen really good questions, because it really targets the reality that we experience during debate, right? On time management. One, again, your coach is the one suggesting things because they have seen your performance. Maybe the 3 minute is a challenge for you, or a 3 minute is a mandatory thing. It could be really different for a different coach, right? But what I said, like, to answer Fari's question earlier, is that you have to experiment. For example, if you think that, oh my God, I have done 10 times of 3 minutes and my setup still failed, you would say that, okay, I will do 4 or 5 minutes, but then my setup will be really good. And then you do it continuously for several times. And you say that, okay, actually 5 minutes is a really great time for me to write down my setup. And when my setup is good, my case is good. Then you go on with 5 minutes of setup, right? You do not need to like stick to the specific formula of 3 minutes or 2 minutes. No. Again, use the experimentation method. So you would write down, okay, every time I have to do setup 3 minutes, my speech is just a mess. I will try to increase it to 4 or 5 minutes. I will try it down. And then when you see, okay, it's 5 minutes already, or like move a bit more far than 5 minutes, and then you would say that, okay, my setup is now great. I will just focus on my argument next. And then you can see that there is an increment of your scores or increment of your persuasiveness from that time. It means it works. So again, it could be totally different. There is a team that actually start with argument, then they think about the setup later. Or there's also a speaker that start with setup and then think about the argument. So you can also experiment that. So the first experiment is try to increase the time, and the second experiment is that probably what you need is to try with the argument and later set up, leave it at the last 5 or 10 minutes. It could also be one of the way, right? So again, experiment it, and also again, ask for feedback afterwards. So you would see the difference between doing one thing or doing another thing. That's my answer.
All right, thank you so much, Kak. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For the next question, please, M. Shauki Abdurrahman.
Okay, so my question is that is it easily is there ever a moment during a debate where you feel like trapped by an argument from your opposition, like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, this argument is too strong for me, like how do I counteract that one? Like you feel like trapped by that argument, like you have nowhere to go. Like how do you solve that?
Okay, thank you, Shoki. I think that happens for everyone. It happens to me too. For if you're a university speaker, it's still possible to get second because you can go with the strategy of being the second performing team, like getting a second rank. But if you're high school, I think Shauki is also high school, is that you only have one chance to win or to lose, right? So the issue is that in many ways you still have to fight. You know that you will probably lose, but at least you lose with still a good score. That's what I have in mind because I lose as well. I lose a lot of the time when I was in NSDC. I know that I will be losing. At the time, Kalimantan Barat was facing Jawa Timur, and Jawa Timur speakers were really, really great. I was like, I know that I will lose, but what I do is that I will still attack with POI. So just because you think that you will lose, do not stop. Maybe your POI can save you. You never know if the judge just like persuaded by you. So even if you feel like their argument is very strong, you still try to attack with POI. You still try to find responses that could make your speech be valued higher. So even if you lose, the margin score is not that it's not too much. You still can get some point and then maybe, I don't know, get speaker award, best speaker awards. That's one thing. So that's the only way that I could answer. But in essence, other than that, you still have to prepare yourself beforehand with a lot of matter, with a lot of cases. That's why I said again and again, debating exercise or like your coaching session is not the only time that you practice. There are two ways of practice: practicing with your coach and your team, where you do sparring with other team or like facing another team, just like a usual debate. But second is also individual training. If you don't do individual training, it's really hard. I've never seen a successful and champion debater who don't do individual training. They will train by, again, watching YouTube, experiment with their case, reading a lot of stuff, and then documenting their stuff, and then also curating. Okay, I already learned about economy this week. I need to learn about politics. I need to learn about IR next week. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 5 minutes more, and I think this one will be our last question. This question will goes to Agrinal Berlian from Seman Sumsel, please.
Check.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Kak. So my name is Agrinal. I'm coming from Sumatera Selatan, and also my province is Sumatera Selatan. So I just would like to ask how to develop the great framings, like especially in debatings when we need to picturize our urgencies, our our picturizations about status quo, like mostly it's really hard to picturize the framing, especially if we don't know about that kind of questions. Like maybe I only know about economical, but if we talk about international relation, it's hard to framing it up towards my speech. How about that? Thank you, Kak.
Okay, so I think I will start with the questions of if I don't know, what should I do? You still have alternative. These are some of the discussion. It should start with urgency or concept or example. What if I don't know anything about the motion? It means that you are not prepared for the motion. You know that you are not good with IR. You have to prepare yourself with IR. You think you don't know about sport. You have to prepare yourself with sports. So there is no argument of like, I don't know about it. So what should I do? You have to find it out before the competition, yeah, not during the competition. That's one of the answer of it, yeah. So if you ask me, I don't know about the motion, what should I do? There is no way that you could do anything about it. You need to just study it, learn about it prior to the competition. But then, what to frame, how to frame a debate if you are like any point, opposition or government. My answer to that is that if you want to have a framing, you should start with the questions or like the keywords of it. So again, whenever you see a motion, start with the keywords. Oh my God, the keywords is about eco-friendly policies or campaigning for individual lifestyle. If I say it about individual lifestyle or eco-friendly policies, I will just get 75. What I need is to frame the debate about how lobbying matters, how lobbying works. So I will try to frame the debate in the beginning by saying that this is a opposition case, yeah. I would say that lobbying the government is something that requires a lot of resources. What happened when you go with eco-friendly policies is that you go to big individuals, those who are elites, those who have interests, those who are going to be profited from the policies to do something about the eco-friendly policies. You cannot just come to Trump and say that renewable energy is important, let's ban plastic consumption. He will say no. What you need is therefore individual lifestyle changes where not only one, not only 10, but a multiplications of many people doing something. And that is also the electoral voices where a lot of people already prefer renewable energy, the policy will follow. That's your framing. That's done. And then you go to the first and second argument. Does that make sense to you?
I think it's clear. It's kind of clear. And thanks so much for the knowledge, Kak.
Yes. So again, with framing is that you see again the keywords of the motion. And from that keywords of the motion, you have to have a definitions of it. What is eco-friendly policies? What is campaigning for individual lifestyle? What is environmental activists? And then you were like, if I just mention the definition, I will fail. So how do I show this debate to be in my favor? If I'm government, I will say that eco-friendly policies is the basis to direct individual action because trends makes people wants to do something. Trends makes people want to join in the trend. For example, people using a lot of tumbler now. Buying tumbler is something that is because of the trend that is created by the big company. Or people now using electrical vehicle. There were a lot of pushback with the traditional car, but now electrical vehicle is on the boom because government incentivize the tax. So you can say that things. In comparison to just say that investing in renewable energy is good, banning plastic consumption is good. No, you can say in frame it in like specific form. How to be able to have a great framing? Experiments again, try to experiment. So if I say this, what is the weight of the debate? How is it like? So if you feel like today, I really don't know about the motion, what is the framing that I should use? Just go on as a usual one. But then you can ask in your coaching session with your coach, Kak, do you think that the framing was good earlier? No, katanya gitu kan. And then you don't know how to frame it better. You just ask, do you have any suggestion on what is the best framing that I can use today on this specific motion? And then you listen and then you write down and then you try to use it for the next time. So you cannot just expect that I could get a great framing without using it. Just use it first and then ask for feedback. And then the feedback that you get, use that feedback for the next debate. If you use it for the next month's debate, you will forget already. So I usually maximize on feedback. I remember when I was doing an UDC, and I proceed to final and winning the final is because I used the feedback from the previous round. You know what? I almost did not get to final because in this semi-final, one of the judges said that I don't really understand your speech because your speech was so messy. I was like, what the hell? What could I do with this? My speech is mess, but I have a lot of argument. So although you have a good argument, but your speech is a mess, the judges would say, I don't really understand. Some judges, some bad judges, but if they're good judges, they will still try to understand. But again, it's not their job to understand you. It is your job to make them understand you. So in that sense, I was like, okay, I have to signpost the debate. The debate well, and that's why during the final, my speech was way, neat and way more understandable by judges. If you just want to compare it, you can just watch my NUDC semi-final 2020 versus the final one. You would see the difference of it. If you want to do a comparison, I don't know what the other debaters. Yeah, that's my examples. But you can also see your speech. That's why I said documenting is good. If you want to try, you can also use your voice recording. At the time, I was still using recording. So every time I have a speech, I will record and then I will say, and then the next time I will still record and then I will compare the speech. So I have a written notes and also comparison in the recording. I think you can also recording yourself a lot and then maybe make a content out of it. So you have gotten, recording for your learning and also a recording to just have a memory of it. Maybe become a debate content influencer. I don't know.
Yes, Kak. Thanks so much, Kak. That's
Thank you.
understandable.
Okay, everyone, that is our last question for Kak Feli's session. I think that's also the end of the winning debate strategy session. Thank you so much, Kak Feli, for your contribution, and we really appreciate your presentation because me myself actually learned a lot from it. It was really wonderful.
Thank you,
Okay.
Balkis, also for moderating and everyone for joining the debate. I think I will still be here to watch the session with Hans. But then if any of you still have burning questions or any other things that you want to ask to me, you can ask to my Instagram, Feliani Ruth. But then I might not answer right away. It really depends on the time, but I will try to answer if you really have a specific question that I can help answer. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Kak
Bye.
Feli.